Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. It's a cozy evening and raining outside. So I thought, what better time to tackle the AZ-305 preparation than when the weather is just asking me to slow down and teach something new. Let's get right into it. In this video, I will provide you the tips, strategy, and the resources to pass the AZ-305 exam in your first try. My name is Navneet Kumar and I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. When you are preparing for AZ-305 Designing Microsoft Azure Infrastructure Solution exam, it is crucial to understand the domain weightage. This tells you how much each area contributes to your overall score and where to focus your efforts. Let's break down this table. The first domain is design identity, governance, and monitoring the solutions, which covers 25 to 30% of the exam. This is a significant portion of the exam. It covers designing identity and access management with Microsoft Entra ID, implementing the role-based access control, setting up governance with Azure policies, and planning the monitoring solutions using the tools like Azure Monitor and Log Analytics are other topics of this domain. These are some foundational skills that are required for securing and managing your Azure environment. Next domain is design data storage solutions, which covers 20 to 25% of the exam. This domain focuses on choosing the right storage strategy. You will need to know how to design the solutions using the Azure Storage blobs, file, Cosmos DB, and the SQL databases. It also ensures the security, scalability, and performance are addressed in the design principles. Next domain is design business continuity solutions, which is 15 to 20% of the exam. This portion tests your ability to plan for the disaster recovery and the high availability. You will be expected to design the backup strategies, configure the site recovery, and understand the RTO and RPO requirements based on the business requirements. Next domain is design infrastructure solutions, that is 30 to 35% of the exam. The largest chunk of the exam, this domain dives into the networking, compute, and the hybrid infrastructure. You will need to design the secure and scalable virtual networks, plan for the virtual machine architecture, and integrate with on-premises environments wherever required. So when studying, give extra attention to the infrastructure and identity and governance since they make up the majority of the exam. I have done dedicated videos on my channel where I have covered the infrastructure services or the identity and governance services. If you are new to this channel, please subscribe it for future updates. Well, the prerequisites to earn the Azure Solution Architect Expert certification is the AZ-104 Microsoft Certified Azure Administrator Associate Certificate. What does that mean? If you take the AZ-305 exam, then you earn the exam or the certificate which is Designing Microsoft Azure Infrastructure Solutions, whereas the certificate for proving your skills as a Azure Solution Architect Expert requires you to take the AZ-104 exam as well. This is the prerequisite exam, you can say, for this certification to earn. I already have discussed that the services that are covered in this exam are primarily into the infrastructure services, into the identity and governance. So compute, network, storage, monitoring, and security are the major components of this exam. As a Microsoft Azure Solution Architect, you should have the subject matter expertise on these topics. Your responsibilities for this role include the advising stakeholders and translating the business requirements into the designs for the Azure solutions that align with Azure well-architected frameworks and the cloud adoption frameworks, WAF and CAF, for the Azure. In this role, you implement the solutions on Azure by partnering with the various other job roles, including the developers, administrators, security engineers, and data engineers. As a candidate for this exam, you should have the advanced experience and the knowledge of IT operations, including the networking, virtualization, identity, security, business continuity, disaster recovery, data platforms, and the governance. You should manage how decisions in each area affect an overall solution. In addition, you should have experience with the Azure administration, Azure development, and the DevOps processes. If you have prepared and earned the AZ-104 and AZ-400 certifications, along with some security certifications like AZ-500, then it will help you to prepare for the AZ-305. Well, the exam duration will be 120 minutes, which is 2 hours. Passing score will be 700 out of 1000. There will be 40 to 60 questions of different patterns, be it hotspot areas, case studies, or the multiple choice questions are there. I will talk about the pattern of the questions in the exam that you will see shortly in this video. If you are thinking like, how should I prepare for this AZ-305 certification? So you should review the Microsoft's official learning path first of all for this AZ-305. I will put the links in the description of this video. So do visit the description of the video and have a look at the learning path. You can study the architecture patterns, the well-architected frameworks from the Azure Architecture Center. You can refer to different architectures. Practice with design scenarios and case studies. You should take mock exams and review the questions from the reliable sources like the practice tests of Microsoft you can take. You will find the link in the description. Use Azure portal for the hands-on labs because the real experience matters in the Microsoft exams. Well, if you want, you can also attend our live online trainings with the instructors where you can dedicate your time and prepare for this certification. Not only prepare for the certification, but gain the knowledge and skills for your job. Well, this is the pattern of the questions. Multiple choice questions with single answer, multiple choice with multiple answers where it is clearly mentioned that choose 2 or 3 options that are correct. Drag and drop that you have to put the answers in the correct order. Scenario based questions are there. Case studies based questions, there will be a case study which has the business requirements mentioned, technical requirements mentioned, and the existing architecture, and based on that there are 4 or 5 questions that you need to attempt. Hot area questions are there where you need to click on the screen. It's quick image kind of experience you will get. Best answer question, you need to choose the best solution. So all answers might seem correct, but you must choose the most appropriate or the efficient solution, which either saves the efforts of implementing something or optimizes for the performance, security, or the cost based on the question. Well, there is yes no question based on the scenario where there will be a single scenario and multiple solutions. There can be one correct solution, there can be no solution which is correct as per the requirement or the solution presented. So these are the different types of questions in the exam that you will face. I will take you through few of the questions. The idea behind that is to take you through some questions to understand the pattern or what sort of questions will be in the exam. I strongly recommend that you take the practice test from Microsoft. I will put the link in the description of this video. This is one of the questions that you have an Azure subscription that contains a custom application named App1. The App1 was developed by an external company named Fabricam Limited. Developers at Fabricam were assigned the role-based permissions. RBAC was done for the application 1 components. All users are licensed for the Microsoft 365 E5 plan. You need to recommend a solution to verify whether the FabricAmp developers still require permissions to application 1. The solution must meet the following requirements. Number 1, send a monthly email to the managers of the developers listing the access permissions to the application 1. If the manager does not verify an access permission, automatically revoke that permission. And the third requirement is that minimize the development efforts for this. The correct answer for this is that in Entra ID we have a feature called access review, which we can do to frequently review the access permissions on the applications or resources, that whether the users still need that access or not. The idea behind that is to remove those stale records or the accounts that do not require the access on the resources so far. We can do this access review on annual, semi-annual, quarterly or weekly basis. The other three options are incorrect because creating an Azure automation runbook is basically to do the automation of and specifically the command that is mentioned is for the getting the Azure role assignments only. So this is just to do the inventory. In Entra ID privileged identity management, create a custom role assignment for the application 1 resources? No, because that is the feature that provides time-bound access, but not the access review to ensure that only the legitimate people have the access. Option D is also incorrect because creating an Azure automation runbook with get Azure AD user app role assignment commandlet will not work in this case. Well, this is one of the question. Next question is, you have an Azure subscription. The subscription has a blob container that contains the multiple blobs. 10 users in the finance department of your company plan to access the blobs during the month of April. So time-bound access need to be provided on the storage account on the blob container. You need to recommend a solution to enable the access to the blobs only during the month of April. Which security solution should you include in the recommendation? So we have the option of shared access signatures, also referred as SAS. Access keys is not a good idea because access keys provide the full-fledged access on these storage accounts. If we want to provide the granular access on these storage accounts based on the objects that we want to offer for a particular time frame we want to offer, we want to do the whitelisting or blacklisting of the IP addresses to allow. So that sort of granular control we get in the shared access signature. So we can generate these SAS tokens and share these SAS signatures with these developers, these 10 users who need this access. Conditional access policies and certificates are also not the correct options in this case. So shared access signature is the solution because we have the option of expiry time that we can specify in this. The next question is that you have an Entra ID tenant that syncs with the on-premises Active Directory domain. You have an internal web application named WebApp1 that is hosted in on-premises and uses the integrated Windows authentication. Some users work remotely and do not have the VPN access to the on-premises network. You need to provide the remote users with the single sign-on access to this WebApp1 so that they can use their work account to access this application. Which two features should you include in the solution? Each correct selection is worth 1 point. So it is a multiple choice question, select multiple answers. So it is literally mentioned that you need to choose two. In this case, the correct answers are option A. First of all, Entra ID application proxy you will be using to integrate your on-prem web applications with the Entra ID so that the users can have SSO. They can authenticate using their work account. And the second option is Entra ID enterprise application you have to configure. Azure AD privileged identity management does not make sense. Conditional access policies. Azure Arc does not make sense. Azure Arc is actually for the hybrid computing. Azure application gateway is also not the correct answer because that's for load balancing purpose. Next question is that you have an Entra tenant named contoso.com that has a security group named Group 1. Group 1 is configured for assigned membership and has 50 members, including the 20 guest users in it. You need to recommend a solution for evaluating the membership of Group 1. The solution must meet the following requirements. Number 1, the evaluation must be repeated automatically every 3 months. Every member must be able to report whether they need to be in the Group 1. Users who report that they do not need to be in Group 1 must be removed from the group automatically, and users who do not report whether they need to be in group 1 must be removed from the group automatically. So in such case, you should use the access review feature of the Entra ID. This is the hotspot area or question where you need to click on that to choose the correct option. So you plan to deploy an Azure web application named App1 that will use the Azure Active Directory authentication. App1 will be accessed from the internet by the users at your company. All the users have computers that run Windows 10 and are joined to the Azure Active Directory. You need to recommend a solution to ensure that the users can connect to the App1 without being prompted for the authentication, and users can access the App1 only from the company-owned computers. So what should you recommend for each requirement? And you can choose this option. So you select the appropriate option. So first of all, the users can connect to the App1 without being prompted for authentication. What will you do in that case? An Azure AD app registration, an Azure AD managed identity, or Azure AD application proxy. Second option is or second requirement is the users can access App1 only from the company owned laptop. So what you will use in that case? A conditional access policy, an Azure AD administrative unit, application gateway, blueprint, or the Azure policy. Let's have a look at the correct answers. So Azure AD app registration will be required. You will register this application with the Entra ID to register with it, so that the single sign-on can be offered and users can access it without being prompted for the password. And a conditional access policy is configured so that we can ensure that users can access the App1 only from their company-owned computers to protect this cloud app. So Entra ID conditional access policy will be used in this case. Next question is, your company deploys several virtual machines on premises in Azure. Express route is deployed and configured for the on-premises to the Azure connectivity. Several virtual machines exhibit network connectivity issues. You need to analyze the network traffic to identify whether the packets are being allowed or denied to the virtual machines. As a solution, you use the Azure Traffic Analytics in Azure Network Watcher to analyze the network traffic. So does this meet this goal? Answer is yes. So this is the question which can have a single scenario, multiple solutions, and one solution or maybe more than one solutions can be correct, or maybe there is no solution which is correct that is presented. This is the same question again with the same scenario, but the solution presented this time is using the Azure Advisor to analyze the network traffic. It does not meet that goal. Azure Advisor is actually to provide the recommendations when you have some misconfigurations or you have some issues or some of the best practices you're not following related to the cost, performance, operational excellence, or security. The same scenario, but another solution that has been presented is to use the Azure Network Watcher to run the IP flow verify to analyze the network traffic, that whether this traffic is being sent to the destination or not. This can also let you understand that if there is any NSG that is blocking this communication. So yes, that is the correct answer, correct solution. This question is from the drag and drop. So you have an Azure subscription. The subscription contains Azure virtual machines that run Windows Server 2016 and the Linux. You need to use the Azure Monitor to design an alerting strategy for security related events. Which Azure Monitor log tables should you query? You need to drag and drop. So for events from the Windows event logs, which table you will use? And for events from the Linux system logging, which table you will use? So for Windows we have event, and for Linux systems we have the syslog. So we can drag and drop them into this correct area. Well, this is how we can prepare for the questions when you will attempt the practice test, so you will become more familiar with this. I hope this video was informative to you. Thanks for watching. Do subscribe the channel if you have not subscribed it yet for more videos on the channel. Thank you.